It wasn't just an old house creaking, nor the whisper of wind through cracks in the walls. This was something more personal, more sinister. The voice of a woman, whispering but not in any language I knew. At first, I dismissed it as mere hallucinations from the insomnia that had become my nightly companion since I moved into this old house in Westbrook. The days here dragged on slowly, and loneliness was a constant companion in this place shrouded in mystery. But the whispers began to form words. Ella, Ella. My eyes widened in the dark. My name. The voice was whispering my name. I shot up from my bed, my heart pounding in my chest like a war drum. The room was unusually cold. I could even see my breath misting in the air. I looked around, searching for the source of the sound, but the darkness was thick, and the dancing shadows from the faint streetlights that seeped through the closed curtains made every corner seem to hide something. The sounds of my old house, which I'd bought at a suspiciously low price, began to take on a new, terrifying meaning. I quickly switched on the bedside lamp, filling the room with a pale yellow light that partially chased away the shadows, but not the sound. It had stopped. I held my breath, listening intently, but there was nothing but the usual night silence and the frantic thumping of my own heart. Was I dreaming? Was this all just a disturbing nightmare? I tried to convince myself of that, and crept back into my cold bed, pulling the heavy duvet up to my chin. I closed my eyes tightly, wishing sleep would swallow me and free me from this unsettling feeling. But sleep wouldn't come. I lay awake, my ears strained for any further whisper. Minutes passed incredibly slowly, each second feeling like an eternity. I began to feel foolish. Maybe it was just plumbing groaning or mice scurrying in the walls. But why did it whisper my name? And what if it wasn't hallucinations? These thoughts wrestled in my mind, pushing me to the brink of madness. Ella, you're here, the voice returned. Closer this time and clearer. It came from the wall opposite my bed, the wall that housed an old fireplace sealed up years ago. A shiver ran down my spine as if a cold hand reached through the void to touch my very soul. This wasn't a mechanical sound, nor an animal's cry. It was a woman's voice, a woman who knew my name, a woman who was trapped, or so her fragmented whispers seemed to suggest. I jumped out of bed again, this time with greater agitation. I moved towards the wall, my hand trembling as it touched the cold brick. There was nothing, no obvious cracks, no strange marks, just a solid old wall, exuding the scent of dust and history. I'm watching you, Ella. The blood froze in my veins. This time it wasn't just a whisper. It was a clear, sharp word, as if it had come from the very depths of the wall itself. I felt an overwhelming urge to scream, to run, to escape this cursed house. But my feet were glued to the floor. A strange, morbid curiosity took hold of me. It was like an invisible force pulling me towards the unknown, a force I couldn't resist. "Who are you?" I whispered, my voice barely audible, as if speaking to a ghost. Or perhaps to a part of myself that was starting to fade into the darkness. A long silence followed, so long that I began to wonder if I had imagined everything. Then the reply came, this time with a sorrowful tone, as if it carried millennia of pain, the agony of loss and waiting. "I am forgotten, trapped, and you are the key to my freedom." I swallowed hard. The key to her freedom? What did that mean? I didn't understand anything. I remembered what the neighbors had told me when I moved here 3 months ago. They said the house was haunted, that there were old stories about a woman who had disappeared here decades ago. I hadn't believed them then. I considered it all medieval superstition, just stories to scare tourists. But now, the words echoed in my ears, and I began to feel their terrifying truth. I reached out my hand to the wall again, this time with greater caution, as if handling a ticking bomb. I ran my fingers over the brick, trying to feel for anything unusual. There was nothing, but the voice returned, this time lower, as if on the verge of disappearing, whispering words I could barely catch. Search for the box, beneath the 7th floorboard, in the northeast corner of the room." The voice stopped. This time it didn't return. I remained standing before the wall, my breath quickening, my heart fluttering like a bird trapped in a cage of fog and fear. The seventh floorboard? In the northeast corner? Was this a riddle, or just a cruel trick from an exhausted mind? Despite my fear, there was a sense of urgency pushing me. I couldn't ignore this voice, especially after it knew my name and gave me specific instructions. I turned on my main room light, flooding every corner with yellow light, chasing away the shadows but not the sense of dread that had seeped into my soul. Then I started counting the floorboards from the northeast corner, where the faint silver moonlight sometimes streamed in. 1, 2, 3. I reached the seventh. It was an ordinary board, no different from the rest, but it hid a secret, an ancient and frightening one. I hesitated. Should I do this? What if something terrifying was beneath it? What if it was a trap? What if I couldn't close it again? These questions rushed through my mind like a stampede of wild horses. But curiosity won out, that same curiosity that had always led me into trouble. I knelt on the floor and began to try to lift the board. It was incredibly tight. I went to the kitchen and got an old knife I used for opening boxes. I started trying to wedge the blade under the edge of the board, then slowly and carefully pry it up, avoiding any noise that might alert the neighbors. After several attempts, I heard a faint crack. The board shifted slightly. I continued to press, and with each effort, the board moved more, as if groaning under the pressure. Finally, after a great struggle, I managed to lift it partially, revealing the dark void beneath. Beneath it, there were no mice, no thick dust, nor even buried treasure. There was a small wooden box, old, looking as if it had been handcrafted centuries ago. It was covered in dust and some dirt, but it was surprisingly intact. It was roughly the size of my palm, made of a dark wood I couldn't identify, and inscribed with strange, intricate carvings I didn't understand, resembling mysterious symbols from a lost civilization. There was no visible lock, nor any obvious way to open it. I picked up the box, feeling a strange coldness transfer from it to my hand, even though the room was already chilly. I began to wipe away the dust with my trembling hand, revealing the details of the strange carvings. They looked like symbols, or perhaps letters from an ancient language not written in any book I knew. "Open it, Ella! Open it!" The voice returned, louder this time and more insistent, as if coming from the box itself. I felt the words tremble in the air around the box, as if they were a living entity. I sank to my knees, shaking, the box in my hand pulsing with an odd energy. Was the voice trapped in the box? Was this its secret? I had no other choice. I touched the lid and gently pushed it. The box opened with a faint creaking sound, as if it were opening after centuries of being sealed shut, revealing its contents. Inside, there was no gold or glittering jewels in the darkness. There was only a small silver key, incredibly old-looking, with a strange flower-like engraving on its head that I'd never seen before, with intertwined petals. The key emitted a faint glow, as if it were made of a magical substance, a soft blue light filling the small space within the box. I couldn't resist the urge to pick it up. As my fingers touched the key, I felt a gentle electrical current pass through my body. Not painful, but invigorating, as if it were awakening every cell within me. Suddenly, I felt something strange shift in the room. The voice that emerged from the wall this time was not a whisper, but more like deep breaths, as if someone had been holding their breath for centuries and had finally released it. It was a sound that filled the room with air, with freedom. Then, the wall itself began to glow. It wasn't just ordinary light. It was as if the wall became transparent, slowly fading, revealing a mysterious void behind it. I saw her. Behind the wall, in a dark void, there was a woman. She wasn't a traditional ghost. She looked real, though slightly transparent, as if made of light and shadows. Her hair was long and flowing, dark as a moonless night, and her eyes were dark and deep like the ocean, filled with sadness and hope. She wore an old gown, torn in places, as if she had lived for hundreds of years, or passed through countless dimensions. She extended her hand towards me, her eyes filled with pain and gratitude, her facial expressions shifting between deep sorrow and overwhelming joy. "You did it. Ella, you freed me." Her voice was now clear, strong, yet still carrying a melancholic tone. a tone that held untold stories. My face paled. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely audible, barely escaping my dry throat. "My name is Lilia, and I have been here for centuries, trapped between dimensions, waiting for someone to find my key," Lilia said, her hand still extended towards me, as if waiting for my touch. "You are the one with the pure soul, the heart that did not fear the darkness. You are the one who listened to my whispers, who did not retreat from fear." I felt dizzy. All of this was real. This house, this story, this voice in the wall. I wasn't crazy. I was part of something much bigger, something I couldn't fully comprehend. "But why me?" I asked, my mind trying to grasp all this madness, all these overlapping dimensions. "Because you are like me. You have an insatiable curiosity, and a desire to know what lies beyond the veil. Many have lived in this house before you, heard my whispers, but they ignored or feared. You are the only one who followed the call, the only one who had the courage to lift the veil from the unknown." As she spoke, a light began to glow from behind her. It wasn't an ordinary light, but more like starlight, dancing and expanding, filling the void behind the wall. Lilia began to fade slowly, as if dissolving into this light, slipping into another realm, into a freedom long awaited. Her features shifted, transforming into a pure luminosity. "It is time for me to go, but I will not forget you, Ella Stark. You have opened a door for me, and perhaps you have opened a door for yourself as well. Remember, not everything that is seen is real, and not everything hidden is evil. Seek the secrets, for in them lies the truth." Lilia completely vanished into the glowing light, which in turn began to fade gradually. The wall returned to its solid state, as if it had never glowed, and had never held a trapped woman. All that remained was the small wooden box in my hand, and the shimmering silver key that still emitted a faint glow, and a strange sense of comfort and peace that filled the room, a peace I hadn't felt in a long time. The sun had begun to rise through the bedroom window, casting golden streaks on the wooden floor. There was no trace of the rain, nor the thunder, nor even the terrifying darkness that had dominated the night. Everything seemed normal, but I wasn't. I had changed. I looked at the key in my hand. It was cold, yet it pulsed with a strange energy. This key didn't just free Lilia, it seemed to have unlocked something within me, a new sense of clarity, of purpose. I didn't realize what awaited me, but I knew one thing: my life would never be the same. I was no longer just Asterisk Ella, the girl who moved from city to city searching for a place to belong, who felt lost in this vast world. I had become Asterisk Elie, the girl who heard a voice in the wall, freed a trapped soul, and now possessed a key to something much bigger, a key to worlds I never imagined existed. This wasn't just a haunted house, it was a gateway I had opened, and I began to wonder, where will this gateway lead me, and what other secrets await me in this world, and perhaps in other realms? I felt my journey had just begun, and that the box and the key were only the beginning of a larger adventure, an adventure that would reveal the meaning of existence itself. The idea of hidden secrets no longer frightened me. Instead, it excited my curiosity beyond belief. Lilia, the voice in the wall, had changed everything, but now the question remains. This key is free my back, but now the question remains. Did Ella truly unlock a door to another world, or did she simply set free something that was never meant to escape? And if a voice whispered your name, would you answer? Tell us in the comments. What do you think was really behind the wall? A spirit? A secret dimension? Or something far more ancient? If this story gave you chills, don't forget to like the video to keep the darkness at bay, subscribe so you never miss the next unsettling tale, and share the story with someone who dares to listen. The next key might be in your hands. See you in the next mystery, if you're brave enough.